Man, so many people just asked me about this. It was nuts. Videos I would do, people leave comments talking about it. Hey, when are you going to talk about this? You should be talking about it. Yada yada yada. And there was a reason why I did speak about it a little bit on Tuesday night's main event, but I didn't speak about it like on my channel, kind of in detail, because I wanted to see kind of more information unfold. And it turned out that when Steven Crowder did his video, of course, everybody had their bigger response, took it for face value. That was to be expected. And then Daily Wire came out not too long ago before I shot this video, did like a 57-minute video with 52, 57 minutes, something like that. They did that long video breaking down the actual contract, basically saying it was us that offered it. However, there was some maybe miscommunication or simply misunderstanding and false information that they felt. So I wanted that information to come out. Now that it has, you've heard their end of it, you've heard Steven's end of it, and I want to just go ahead and kind of chime in. Now, I knew right off the rip that it was not Blaze. I was trying to tell people that. There were some people alluding to it because they were only watching a clip of what Steven had said. So they were like, oh, it was Glenn and it was Blaze TV, yada, yada, yada. But if you actually watch the full video, which his was like almost 30 minutes, it might have been more, I can't remember, Steven Crowder's that is, he actually says, hey, this is not about the Blaze. And he says like he wanted to separate that to make people aware that that was not the case. He was a free agent. So this obviously, even though he didn't name, we find out later that it was Daily Wire, but even though he didn't name them, we knew that it was not ever Blaze. Now, in my experience, nobody at Blaze has a deal kind of that is like exactly like that. Let's say that. Believe it or not, people get, depending on the talent, depending on where you're at in your individual career, and this is what I wanted to spend the video talking about, is that your deal and your setup is going to be different. Okay, that's just the bottom line. Doesn't matter if it's music, any sort of entertainment, your leverage that you have is going to determine how unfavorable or favorable your deal is. Now, I want to be clear and say, Steven, being as defensive as he was, I would much rather him be that, because at minimum, he prevents himself from signing something that is going to get him, let's say, in trouble financially. Okay. All too often in entertainment, you get people that just sign the dotted line because they are stoked, they're excited, whatever, especially younger people who maybe don't have a following, and the person or label or network that you're signing to is going to promise you the world, where they're going to, of course, expect a lot in return, and you might screw yourself over. I've seen this in the music industry so often. So leverage is a lot of what you have, and I say this as somebody that has been approached not by Daily Wire. I want to be very clear that has not been one of the entities that has ever approached me about doing some sort of work. You guys know that I do some. It's a simple contribution stuff that I do with Blaze. So, I show up on shows, talk about certain things on various shows that are already existing, certainly on the platform. It's very beneficial for them, and it's very beneficial certainly for me. So it's nothing that intricate. However, obviously people know Blaze and I have been in talks about kind of taking that to the next level, doing other work. And I've been I've had conversations over the years with various other platforms, alternative platforms, not all conservatives. I own my own in beinglibertarian.com, but other platforms that wanted to maybe collaborate and do work with. And I think what you guys have to understand, again, this is giving you insight, a person that has been there, like with having those negotiations and having those conversations with those people. The first thing that you're going to get, Jeremy, I believe over there at Daily Wire, he brought this up. First thing you're going to get is like a general term sheet, right? It's not going to be a binding agreement. It's just going to say, hey, this is overall what it is that we're looking at. And then you're going to have your negotiation before you get the actual binding agreement that is going to be typed up by the lawyers that work with the entity that you're going to be signing for. Then you get it. You make whatever changes, yada, yada. But the first thing, get the conversation going. You have like a general non-binding kind of term sheet so you can see kind of what it is. Now, what Jeremy just came out, threw the numbers out. He was talking about $50 million basically over the course of 4 years. So 4 to 6 years. They had a 2-year option. That you see that a lot of music as well. So it's 4 years, $50 million. You got a 2-year option. I think it said $25 million basically for those 2 years if they pick up basically that option there. So a lot of money was going to be invested by the Daily Wire to have him on their platform. Now, I would encourage you guys to go watch that video to get the full, go watch both videos. I mean, you're going to spend probably a couple of hours watching that, but go watch both videos because it will give you insight on where each person was coming from. There were some things, as Jeremy broke it down, that there seemed to be some misunderstandings, like with the whole fee reduction thing, where that was kind of coming from, with if he did not produce X amount of shows, or if he did not, I know that one part that really rubbed Steven the wrong way was the part about if they get boycotted or something like that in terms of the ads. Basically, if they're making less money on ads, then they would basically reduce his fees to go along with it. This is what you guys need to understand, and this is I say this as a businessman that obviously hires people in various contracts, even myself through like the Rippaverse as well. You have to understand that any agreement that you enter in, they are trying to profit. Both parties are. You have the talent that wants to make the money. You have the other side of the person that's owning the material, hosting the material. Obviously, if they put up $50 million, it is a norm that they are going to they're expected to own that material that it is that he produced, right? That's just what it is. They're putting, that's like guaranteed money. Obviously, there's fee reductions in the event that, some of those deals. And I would, certainly disagree in certain spots. There was obviously some misunderstanding there, but I wouldn't take the deal as is, but I'm not Steven Crowder, and that's $50 million. And that'll shut a lot of people up. There's a lot of money, but they're investing in that not just for the sake of helping him out. This isn't a charity. This is a business at the end of the day. So of course, whatever entity it is, they're trying to make money. Okay. So when you enter in a deal, you have to understand that, and the people that are on the outside, this is why with Rippaverse, and again, whether you agree with the deal or not, big shout out to them for being transparent. The vast majority of any network, any company will never do that. That's the stuff that we kind of pride ourselves on with Rippaverse, and kudos to the Daily Wire over there and them just saying, all right, we're going to go through the contract. We're going to give you our perspective, and you may not agree with it, and that's certainly up to you, but kudos to them to at least putting it out there and going through it as that sort of stuff was floating up in the air. But they are going to put $50 million. They're expected to make that and plus more. Obviously, that's the goal. In the event so with that much money on the line, they're going to own the show. They're going to own the content. They're going to own all of that. What people need to understand, and I tell this to musicians aspiring, definitely like metalcore musicians, the more money you put up, granted he's producing his own show, but the more money you put up, the more money you get to keep, right? So this is why I think, and we kind of do this with our negotiations as well, that I'm having with be it other companies, Blaze and yada yada, as well, that I've had when we entertain the idea of me doing more material. I like the idea of like revenue shares and whatnot. That way, yeah, your fee may get brought down at the end of the day, but it's like when people are making money, so you're selling ads or whatever, you're making money, they're making money, everybody's happy, splitting that. But you got to understand, like, the more money you put up, and if you want to maintain some sort of ownership of definitely your show, then you got to bring that fee down. That's just the bottom line, because they're the ones, like, Jeremy brought this up. Steven is producing it. So that is his bargaining chip, is that I'm not asking y'all to the actual video content that people are viewing, unless it's the contract came with like maybe it was an annual video. It was a quarterly video, I think they said, and an annually video that he's kind of responsible for doing. And they could spend on the upward of $1 million for like a documentary or something like that. So obviously with that, they're gonna own it, yada, yada. But if you want to sort of like in his case, he has that bargaining chip of that production, but with the other stuff, as well as the marketing, and like he brought up infrastructure and all that sort of stuff that Daily Wire has to do, they of course are going to be paying for that, getting it out there and doing all of that. So of course they're going to try to make their money. Steven doesn't need me to tell him this. Certainly he's more known than I am. He's dealing with a lot more money, certainly, than I am, even with my multi-million-dollar business. But that's just what it is. It's that The fees got to come down, and you can't expect people to operate at an L just to take care of you. Is more so what it is. So I think that was where the confusion was, or the disagreement is that, well, this is much like big tech, because it's basically you're bowing down to the like mob in the event that you don't pay him, right? Because that's what this is about. It's about the money. That's really it. It's like, because they're saying that we would pay you less. Let's say if you lose, they said in the contract, if you lose like 50% of the money that you were making from ads because of boycotts or whatever, the channel isn't even monetized, but like for boycotts and whatever, then they would bring the amount of money that he's going to be basically making. They're going to bring that down to, maybe you don't think that it's comparable. Maybe you think that ratio is kind of off, but that was the reason why. Do I think that's irrational? Not necessarily, because you don't got to understand, like, at that point you're losing money, right? You're operating in the red, at least from the contract perspective. If he can't possibly make the money, be it for whatever reason, he can't possibly make the money back, and you're still going to give him that, deal. Some of you may say it should be like the NBA. It's a guaranteed contract no matter if you don't play half the games. More kudos to you. I guess I get it, but there's a reason why that's one of the only, let's say, sports leagues that do like those fully guaranteed sort of contracts like that, where the entire contract is guaranteed, because look, you could be operating at a loss there. So I totally get where Daily Wire is coming from, where they got to make their money. But with Steven being defensive of that, I totally get that as well. And this isn't to say that I'm trying to play this like middle of the road where both sides got a point, but in all honesty, yeah, they're both looking out for themselves. Daily Wire is putting up $50 million. A lot of y'all can't conceptualize how much money that actually is. Of course, they're going to be trying to get a return. And Steven's looking at it from the perspective of, like, he doesn't want to get screwed over. He doesn't want, if he's going to be entering an agreement, he wants the money to be guaranteed no matter what kind of consequences that he is meeting. And certainly as a creative, I totally get why you would be very protective of your work, and I would prefer he be that way as opposed to just signing on the dotted line and taking an L long term, right? I get it. Now, the other part of this is how this whole Bitcoin thing. I know that's what Steven Crowder's kind of talking about with the whole Bitcoin. I'm not conservative, so a lot of those conversations are really it's different kind of with me. When I have these negotiations and conversations, it's more, they know I'm coming to buck the system, right? Blaze knew that. I'm the fire starter over there, right? I'm going to come and I'm going to, inevitably disagree with you guys on certain issues and yada, yada, yada. But it's a bit, and again, a big shout out to Blaze. I've said this many, many times. Blaze is never, there's no muzzle or anything. Me and Glenn chat, we're cool. We chat all the time. At no point has it ever been between Tyler or Glenn where it was ever like, hey man, just kind of tone it down. No, say whatever you want, go do your thing. And that's the case. But bargaining chips, leverage is a real thing. But for you creatives out there that want to maintain ownership, and Steven knows this, and this is more so for the audience and for the perspective, you got to give and you got to take. That's just the reality of this business. That's to be a reality of any business. If you want to make more money, if you want the more comfort, like in making all the money, a lot of money up front, like, which is basically what this is more of a guarantee, then yeah, you can get a big chunk of money, but understand that's going to also come with more obligations. If they're going to invest more, that's going to come up. Even the most favorable contracts are going to come with, they're going to own the material, yada, yada, yada. That's what it is. If you want to own it, right, or you want to do maybe like a revenue share or something like that, that number's got to come down. Period. And your best bet is probably to enter in some of the like an idea of where they have maybe a guaranteed bit of money that they're going to pay you. You allow them to make it back, right? Depending on, so it works for everybody. They got to put up the money up front at least, or guaranteed. Doesn't matter what happens. But y'all start splitting the revenue from whatever it is, subscriptions, ads or whatever. Y'all split that right down the middle. So they're benefiting from it and you're benefiting from it as well. But that guaranteed number is going to have to come down, especially if you think you're going to own the show. Good luck getting that. But especially if I'm not saying that that's what Steven wants, but especially if you're going to own the show, that number's got to come down, because they're, what is in it for them? You have to look at it from both perspectives, not just the creator. I think we're in this world where the day of these the abuse, right, from the mega corporations, which has abused so many creatives. Like, people are basically thinking that, well, everybody needs to be trying to finesse the corporate entity, or everybody needs to be trying to finesse the business. And I obviously, as a business owner, I understand. I get people that pitch stuff to me all the time. And, you know, with the people that work for us, you know, obviously the Rippaverse, I pay them very handsomely, you know, but yeah, of course, the Rippaverse is going to own the content. We going to own the content that these guys are creating under the Rippaverse. I will give them kickback. I will give them, try to negotiate definitely for writers. I try to get like obviously guarantees, bonuses, and all that, in addition to the commission that I'm giving them, so they can eat off of maybe some great work that they did. But obviously the Rippaverse is going to own the material like that. It has to be that way, because otherwise, what's the point? Well, why on earth am I doing this? And I know you got people that like Image, they do creative own stuff, but like, of course, if I'm the one spending all the money to get it created, and I'm commissioning you to do it, so you're essentially working for me, of course I'm going to own it. So that's the way they're looking at it. Though they don't produce it with the Daily Wire, they're looking at it like, we're paying you $50 million, and we're paying our staff to do all of this heavy lifting with the infrastructure. They're of course going to get that kickback. That's the game. Now, I don't at all doubt, and I've had my conversations with people that are in this movement, that are in when I say movement, I mean like alternative media. I'm not saying like conservative media. I'm saying like alternative media, that people that are in like unfavorable deals and they're just itching to get out. You got to have legal counsel. You got to have people read the contract. And that's where I do agree with Steven as far as the overall theme of, hey, make sure at minimum you're getting someone else to look over it. Don't think because, oh, you did a viral video, company's going to come. They're going to try to, you're excited like, oh, this is more money than I've ever seen. That's how they get rappers all the time. These guys that came from nothing. They just throw a big dollar sign at them and they getting screwed over. That's just how it is. So make sure you get somebody to look over it. I certainly agree with that. But I do think, in all honesty, there was some miscommunication and misunderstanding. Now, where people are going to agree and disagree on is what the dollar amount is in terms of, okay, when he was guaranteed, I can't remember, it was like 190 shows that he had to do over the course of the year. And if he didn't make that, it starts, they start docking money, essentially is what it is. You may agree or disagree on that amount, and I'm pretty sure even that stuff was up for negotiation. But there seemed to be some at minimum bare misunderstanding. But there's some grimy people in this movement, right? So yeah, that is a thing. That's some grimy people. There's a reason why, even with myself, why it's very contained. I still maintain ownership on everything it is that I do. There's nobody. I don't got investors. I don't got anybody putting money up. There's a reason why it's like that. Because I want to, I think that's beneficial, and a lot of this stuff just ain't worth my time or worth entertaining. So, yeah, I know for you guys that are conservative, you don't like to see that, right? You think Daily Wire is doing decent work. Steven Crowder, he's a big name, massive. You don't like to see him maybe possibly going at it with other people that are certainly in this movement. But there does seem to be, at least at minimum, some level of misunderstanding on both parties. And maybe it's just a case. Maybe it was a case like with Steven with Blaze, even for that matter, right? It's like that was more of a falling out, like business wise, they didn't agree, right? Couldn't come to terms. He's going on now. He's a free agent. It happens. Sometimes it's not just about somebody getting screwed over. It's just disagreements, and you're no longer compatible, and that's just what it is. But with this guy, seems to be, he's like, I'm getting screwed over, and he rung the alarm on that. You can feel whatever way about it. Do you think he jumped the gun? Whatever, that's your business. I just want to give people insight. That was the point of this video. I want to give people insight because obviously I'm in this deal as well as like a creative talent. And obviously with my relationship with Blaze and what have you, I can offer at least some level of insight as I am seeing this unfold just as you are, but I've been there and I've been at the table, terms, negotiations and all that. So at minimum, I hope you got something from that, at least from this video, as far as what's going down. Hopefully this ends up being, there's some legitimate resolution between these parties, but maybe there's not, and certainly there's nothing wrong with that.